Amagyanatimandasya Gananjala Chalakaya Chakshulanmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Katabayam Tatati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Tapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raganatanditam Tam Jajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam Cha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Jinamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurana Vichane Nivasesha Sunivani Vashatti Desatarane. Hare Krishna. So, is anybody here for the first time? When no one's... You are? Okay. I think most of you are familiar with Krishna consciousness. Okay. Anyone never heard anything about Krishna consciousness? You just here because you walked in off the street and you didn't know anything. Okay. So, among friends. So I've been asked to give a lecture on transcending designations. And I thought I'd just read this verse that everybody knows, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 13. Dehinosmin yata dehe kumarang chovanam jada tata dehantara praptir as the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Since every living entity is an individual soul, each is changing his body every moment, manifesting sometimes as a child, sometimes as a youth, and sometimes as an old man. I don't know if you can hear me. Yet the same spirit soul is there and does not undergo any change. This individual body finally changes the body at death and transmigrates to another body. And since it is sure to have another body in the next birth, either material or spiritual, there was no cause for lamentation by Arjuna on account of death, neither for Bhishma nor for Drona, for whom he was so much concerned. Rather, he should rejoice for their changing their bodies from old to new ones, thereby rejuvenating their energy. Such changes of body account for varieties of enjoyment or suffering, according to one's work in life. So Bhishma and Drona, being noble souls, were surely going to have either spiritual bodies in the next life, or at least life in heavenly bodies for superior enjoyment of material existence. So in either case, there was no cause of lamentation. Any man who has perfect knowledge of the constitution of the individual soul, the super soul, and nature, both material and spiritual, is called a dhira, or a most sober man. Such a man is never deluded by the change of bodies. The Mayavadi theory of oneness of the spirit soul cannot be entertained on the ground that the spirit soul cannot be cut into pieces as a fragmental portion. Such cutting into different individual souls would make the Supreme cleavable or changeable, against the principle of the Supreme Soul being unchangeable. As confirmed in the Gita, the fragmental portions of the Supreme exist eternally, sanatan, and are called kshara. That is, they have a tendency to fall down into material nature. These fragmental portions are eternally so, even after liberation. And even after liberation, the individual soul remains the same, fragmental. But once liberated, he lives an eternal life in bliss and knowledge with the personality of Godhead. The theory of reflection can be applied to the super soul who is present in each and every individual body and is known as the Paramatma, who is different from the individual living entity. When the sky is reflected in water, the reflections represent both the sun and the moon and the stars also. The stars can be compared to the living entities, and the sun and the moon to the Supreme Lord. The individual fragmental spirit soul is represented by Arjuna, and the Supreme Soul is the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. They are not on the same level, as it will be apparent in the beginning of the 4th chapter. If Arjuna is on the same level with Krishna, and Krishna is not superior to Arjuna, then the relationship of instructor and instructed becomes meaningless. If both of them are deluded by the illusory energy Maya, then there is no need of one being the instructor and the other the instructed. Such instruction would be useless, because in the clutches of Maya, no one can be an authoritative instructor. Under the circumstances, it is admitted that Lord Krishna is the is the Supreme Lord, superior in position to the living entity, Arjuna, who is a forgotten soul, deluded by Maya. So, in this verse, there are many things going on. And first thing is that we are not this body. So there's no need to lament for something which is here today and gone tomorrow. And if we want to transcend designations, we have to transcend starting with this body. The body that we're wearing is more or less like a mask in a masquerade party. I've never been to one, but anyway, everyone has a mask they hold up. Oh, you're Napoleon, or you know. In a masquerade party, you try to assume the identity of the person you're trying to emulate, right? But in this masquerade party known as reality, the way we find ourselves, we are very happy to try to be this thing that we're wearing. We're very glad because our bodies have been given to us based on our desires. So if someone fulfills your desire in exactly the way you want it, well, it's kind of hard to give it up. Kind of hard to like, oh gosh, I'm not this body? And then the next question is, well, if I'm not this body, what am I? And this is a foreign concept for most people, especially in the Western world. In India, where people are enlightened by birth and have heard from a very early age that I am a spiritual being, I am an eternal spiritual being, and I'm here temporarily. That concept in the Western world is kind of foreign, because we are taught that now's the opportunity, you know, especially in America, you know, we have the American dream that we can become anything we want, we can, get an education, get a degree, get a big job, or start a company, or whatever is, freedom provides. But the education of who I am, you won't find that in a public school. And even in the private schools, the other religious institutions, they don't understand that concept either very much. Correct me if I'm wrong. I grew up a Christian, and I never heard this. It's just foreign. So, who are we really? And how do I come to understand who I am? Because once you understand who you are, then you know what to do. They say that if you're in the army, what do I do in a war? And they say, well, just put the uniform on, you'll figure it out. Okay? So in this world, we have come here because we wanted to be like God, to be like Krishna. In the spiritual world, Krishna is everywhere. Everyone can see Krishna. Everyone, or Narayan, in the Vaikuntha planets, there's Narayan. But everyone is in full knowledge. They know everything. And in this corner of the sky, somewhere over there, there's like a cloud. And that's where we are. We're in this cloud of Maya, the cloud of the material world, where living entities sometimes go to try to fulfill their desires of being like Krishna. So Krishna is very kind and merciful. He's like a loving father. So what do you do when the child wants something that is not possible? The child wants to be like the parents. I remember when I was a kid, my father gave me a toy box of tools. You know, toy saw and a toy, whatever, hammer, whatever. And I was disappointed because I wanted the real tool, like it, right? But kind of like that, in this material world, we're allowed to be in a position where we can lord it over nature, or at least try. So it's the same thing. We're trying to do something that we're not really capable of doing. Okay, so the parents, being very loving, want to accommodate the child, the crying child. I want this, I want this, I want this. So we are put into a state of illusion, a whammy. We've got this energy which controls us, and in different ways bewilders us into thinking that this body that I'm given, which enables us to interact with matter, the soul is too tiny and does not have the power to move a single atom. The actual size of our soul is 1/10,000th the tip of a hair. So pull the hair out of your head and cut it into 100 parts. Take one of those parts and cut it into 100 parts, and you'll be subatomic. That's how big we are. So we've been given this body in order to fulfill this dream of becoming like God. And so in this world, we are controlled by 3 modes of nature. And we make choices. Okay? We make choices whether to act in this way or that way. And we associate with different people, and we associate with different places, and different kinds of foods, and different kinds of activities. And according to these modes of nature, which controls and pervades everything, we find ourselves influenced by these things. So if someone wants to be in the mode of goodness, going into a bar and hanging out in the bar, it's not going to work, because the bar is the mode of ignorance. If you're going to school and you just hang out at the bar, you're probably going to take a long time before you graduate. So everything that we do and everything here, we are creating karma for ourselves. And based on our choices, if you act in the mode of goodness, then you tend to rise. And there are planets in the sky called heavens where very elevated souls live, because they've done things and made choices that were in the mode of goodness. And then we have the earthly worlds, like the one we're living on now, which is more in the mode of passion. And those who make choices in the mode of ignorance go down to lower worlds, and at the bottom of the universe is a place that nobody wants to end up, but some people go there because they've committed very sinful activities, the place known as hell, or the Patala Lokas. So in this material world, we assume an identity. It's called false ego. And the false ego obliges us to identify with our body. And we identify with our body and where we're born. So if I'm born in America, I'm an American. And don't come here because you weren't born here. So on and so on. And then we have a family, so we identify with the family. And you have your children, or perhaps you have your parents, whatever position that you're in. Okay. And then your country, you go to join the military. This is my country, my country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty. And so on and so on. We assume these different designations. Okay. I'm a Hindu, or I'm a man, or whatever it might be. I'm a, this political party, whatever it may be. We have so many designations. But the real truth is that we have been given this identity, this mask, this thing, to enjoy in this world. And by our karma and by our activities, whatever we've decided that we're going to do, we end up in a higher place or a lower place. And sometimes you're suffering, and sometimes you're enjoying, and sometimes you find bad people having a great time. Stalin lived to be an old man. Why do bad things happen to good people too? A good person, John Kennedy, seemed to be doing a pretty good job. All of a sudden, boom, he's dead. Prime of life. So why is it? It's because we have done things in the past. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. Okay. So when we come to Krishna consciousness, okay, in the beginning, we're still shell-shocked in a sense that I have to deal with all these things. I have a family, I have a job, maybe I'm going to school, or maybe I'm trying to get married, or whatever it might be. We're still engaged in these activities of this world. And we have to deal with other people in different relationships. So how do I balance these things? I'm trying to become a bhakta, a devotee of Krishna, but somehow or other, I've got these two identities going on, right? How do I transcend this, right? Arjuna was seemingly having the same problem, because when the battle of Kurukshetra came, and the battle's just about to begin. Who's not familiar with Bhagavad Gita? Everyone knows this, the plot that's going on in Bhagavad Gita. There's a battle about to begin. And so Arjuna, in the beginning, it says, okay, Krishna, because Krishna's driving his chariot, he tells Krishna, can you bring me up to the front so I can, take another look at who I'm going to fight? So Krishna says, okay, here's your teacher and your grandfathers and your friends and everybody. And by the arrangement of Krishna, Arjuna was bewildered. And he said, I'm not so sure. I don't want to do this. These are all my friends, and they're all, even if they're avaricious, even if they're trying to get the kingdom, what's going to happen here? If we kill them all, their wives will be unprotected. They might have unwanted children, which will destroy the society. And he just, pulling all these mundane ideas and good ideas, good, excuses why you should not fight. He said, I'd rather go to the forest. I'd rather give them the kingdom. What's the use? I mean, everything's kind of going on okay. Well, who are we going to enjoy with? This is a family fight. Imagine yourself, okay, think of all your aunts and uncles and cousins and everything. And now you're in a situation where it's either you or them. What you're going to do. Not exactly, it's kind of like in the Bible when the guy was asked to kill his son. So luckily we're not in that position right now, but Arjuna was. And because he was attached to his kinsman and his teacher, and his grandfather and all these other cousins and everything, he was bewildered. Because he was thinking, this is for me. I'm fighting to regain the kingdom. That was ostensibly the excuse of the war, because his cousins had basically stolen it. Sort of like something that happened about a little while ago. So this is designation. Arjuna's not thinking that I'm a servant of Krishna. He's thinking, this is my family. And so we're all thinking in the same way. I got my family, I've got my job, I got, all these things situated. But one day, sooner or later, this life will end. And all those relationships and anything you have, anything you're attached to, will be broken, gone. Someone else will get what you got. So we have to transcend, we have to understand who we are and try to understand what we're supposed to do. If we're servants of Krishna and we engage in serving Krishna, then gradually our memory, our relationship will be revealed. It's now in a dormant state. So that's the point of Krishna consciousness. Why we have this Krishna conscious society is to engage in activities of Krishna consciousness. Hearing about Krishna and chanting Krishna's name, eating Krishna's prasadam, right? And rendering services to Krishna, maybe making a donation, or sometimes we have a festival, and people bring food or some ingredients or some flowers or something. Because as we reciprocate with Krishna, then Krishna reveals more and more who we really are. Okay, so it's, Prabhupada gave the example, it's like in India, the women there carry the water on their head, and they can do a lot of other things while it's still balanced there. So Prabhupada gave that example, that when you're doing your activities, you're thinking of Krishna. Okay, so if you dedicate your life to Krishna, by doing whatever you're doing and using the result to serve Krishna, being in touch with Krishna by reading these books, talking to others about Krishna, offering your food to Krishna, chanting Hare Krishna, telling your friends about Krishna, become Krishnaized. And gradually we understand more and more, first of all, that I'm something other than this body. Okay? So, in one sense, it's a little difficult because it's kind of like swimming upstream. Everything outside these doors is aimed at some kind of sense enjoyment, right? Not just to get the bare necessities of life, but to grab for all the gusto you can, right? That's the old advertising slogan, grab for all the gusto you can while you're alive, because you only live once. And that philosophy is as old as the hills. Was it Charvak Muni? Who knows Charvak Muni? Beg, borrow, or steal, or just get ghee and enjoy. Because tomorrow you die, and never mind, when you're dead, you're done. That's Charvak Muni. That was a long time ago. So the thing is still going on today. But the more we try to enjoy in this world, watch out, because bundled with that desire to enjoy is Maya's kick. Okay? The more you try to enjoy, and this is not taught anywhere, the more we try to enjoy, the more we are bound to suffering. Even if you get everything you want, well, death is still there. And after death, then you get another body. And when you get another body, you have to spend about a year, say 10 months or a year, in your mother. And according to the Vedic description, it's not nice. It is hellish. And the child in the womb is on the verge of death. It can't breathe, can't move, and the only thing keeping him alive is the umbilical cord. And then there's birth, and we don't have to actually go through vividly what goes on at birth. But when the child comes out, he forgets everything because it's too traumatic. Just like when you have a bad auto accident. And you wake up in the hospital and you can't remember anything because it was too traumatic. So even if you get everything you want, You might be, like I say, President of the United States. And then all of a sudden, boom, you're gone. And it's all over. And whatever endeavor you made without Krishna consciousness, you don't know where you're going. And by the law of karma, you go wherever the higher authorities put you. We don't choose our family, we don't choose anything. So, the human life is very important. And we are in a condition where at any time, anything can change. There's only one thing you can count on this world is change. Okay, so this movement is very, very important. And you are very, very fortunate. We are all very fortunate that Srila Prabhupada came to teach us these things. Because it's not taught in any university. Where Prabhupada used to say, where's that college class to teach you the difference between a living man and a dead man? I mean, it seems like obvious. Well, he's dead. Yeah, who is he? The children are crying, oh, he's gone away. Well, wait a minute, he's right there. What's the problem? Well, he's dead. Well, what does that mean? What is the difference? Something is different now than 2 moments ago when he was still with us. I was there when my younger brother passed away. And when you're in a coma, he was in a coma, they can still hear. So I would talk to him and I could see, and most of the time there's no expression. But when I would talk to him, you could see that his face would move in such a way I knew that he was hearing what I was saying. Okay. And if I walked away, because it would fade again. So there's something, what is that something that leaves, and we call it death. Okay? But you don't have any college class like that. Okay? We don't have even a class, Wisdom 101. You can take philosophy class, but it's all armchair, or religious, comparative religion, where we, sit around with a teacup and speculate. Okay? But this is the only place that I know of where you can learn these things properly. I mean, there's other yoga groups and stuff like that. We have, Swamis up at the, in Encinitas. But their philosophy is that we're all God, but we forgot. Like, God is so dumb that he forgot he was God. But, no disrespect. But this is the problem. Is it? 19. Jai Bhagavad Gita. Hare Krishna. Okay. So, Srila Prabhupada came to teach us, and Lord Chaitanya came to show, that in spiritual life there is variegatedness, there's personality, there are activities, there's something that you can hang your hat on, there's something that you do, and something that's enjoyable. It's not, drab, it's not boring. And I grew up in a church, and I thought, boy, I never want to be a priest. This is boring. Because, it's all awe and reverence and these sorts of things. And it just seems very, very impersonal. But in the spiritual world, there are activities. And everything that we have here, they have there. So we're not, trying to brainwash people into being, like the Walking Dead. That, we're just, zombies or something like that. We have a relationship, an individual relationship, because Krishna is so incredible that every living soul, living soul is kind of redundant because souls are eternal. They're always living. but they may have bodies of amoebas and bugs and who knows. In this room, in a square millimeter of space, there's probably millions and billions of souls in various, primitive bodies. And Krishna has an individual relationship with each and every one, fulfilling desires of everyone since time immemorial in this world. And in the spiritual world, all the living entities are conscious. The floor is conscious in the spiritual world. The grass is conscious in the spiritual world. Everything is conscious. There isn't anything known as material. There's nothing material. And there's no time. Things don't get old, don't get moldy, right? And even the servants of Krishna, or servants of Narayan in the palaces, they're polishing this Chintamani stones, which make up the palaces. There's no dirt there, but they're cleaning anyway, right? And everyone is trying to please the Lord. And because we're part and parcel of Krishna, we're existing like sparks from a fire, then we enjoy when he enjoys. And right now, that's a concept that's a little hard to understand. We're used to sense gratification, like, I got to have something for me. Or, here's my family, I got to have something for my family. Or, I got to have something for my country, or for, some endangered species, perhaps, or some other country. I donate to, we designate things. But if you don't satisfy Krishna, then you don't get the satisfaction. Just in the same way a fish cannot live outside the water and be happy. You can keep him alive, maybe. So we're kind of like fish out of water. We belong with Krishna. We belong in his world. But we have to surrender. We have to surrender to Krishna. We have to make Krishna the Lord. Let him be the Lord. And let him lord over us. And Lord Chaitanya had a prayer. He said, even if you treat me roughly, that's okay. You're still my worshipful Lord. And so sometimes as a devotee, there are reversals. There are some things that happen that, why is this happening? I'm for whatever it might be something, health. Maybe I lost my job, or, maybe I got robbed, or whatever it may be. Why? Why did this happen to me? And as devotees, we have to see it as Krishna's hand, because for every single one of you sitting here, every one of us, Krishna has personal interest. If you have the slightest interest, if you even chant Hare Krishna, if you touch one of Prabhupada's books, Krishna's everywhere. It's in your heart. He knows. He arranged that. He arranged that meeting. He arranges everything for everyone anyway. But especially for Krishna's devotees, he's especially eager to draw you in. Okay? It's like going fishing. You throw the line in the water, and you got some bait, and the fish takes a bite, and then you start reeling them in. Okay? I'm not saying we should go fishing, but Krishna is reeling us in. Oh, that's chanting Hare Krishna. Well, this is nice. Wow, they got nice food. I like that, right? And nice people, and a philosophy that you can't find any defects with. And the people are nice, and they're sincere, and they look you in the eye. I mean, isn't that what we're looking for? Okay, everything is personal. Okay, and I'm the worst offender. I'll admit. I'm a very introverted type of person. But the fact is that in a congregation, it's about the relationships that we have between each other. That's the glue. If you go to any successful church or any successful congregation, it's how we interact with each other. Because now we're part of the family. We're part of Krishna's family. Okay? And so everyone is important. No one should feel left out. Nobody should feel like, oh, I just came and left, we're all part of this. We're all, every single one of us here. And Krishna, in your life, in every second, in every part of your day, if you're conscious of Krishna, you'll see him everywhere. It takes a little bit of reflection. It's not easy because everything's very passionate out there. But if we think about it, everybody who came here tonight has a relationship with Krishna, and it's going to become more and more and more and more and more and more. And that's how it's supposed to be. That's how it's supposed to be. So Krishna consciousness is not an armchair thing. It's not something that I go to church or temple on Sunday and I go home and do everything else. But it's a lifestyle of being devoted to Krishna, to God. So, does anybody have any comments or questions?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I was waiting for that.
Prabhu, my humble obeisances, all glories to your class. Prabhu, the verse you chose for today brought to us the concept of Dhira, a sober person. And you said in your class that the knowledge related to the person who is Dhira, who is sober, and because he's sober, he is never deluded by the change of bodies. You said that this knowledge is not available in the universities. So my question is, where should I go in order to obtain this knowledge? Is it that this knowledge is available in the market where I buy milk and vegetables?
It's not. There are so many institutions of so-called knowledge, but there may be one somewhere. I just don't know of any. And Srila Prabhupada and the Parampara system has been existing for a long time, but in the Western countries, it has not been preached properly before Prabhupada came, at least as far as I know. There were other yogis and people come to the West, but they don't teach even the basics. It's just armchair philosophy and Mayavadi philosophy that we're all God and just, meditate and you'll become God. But they don't teach, the essentials. And there's no university in the world that is teaching, and Prabhupada said, there's no university in the world teaching what's the difference between a live man and a dead man. So, no, you can't find it in the marketplace unless you go to a bookstore and get one of Prabhupada's books. It doesn't exist. So, did I answer your question?
Yes, Prabhu, wonderful answer to my question. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thanks for being there. I was hoping to hear from you.
You are welcome. Thank you very much.
There are many universities in India that teach religious studies. It's not
Oh,
there.
yeah.
There are many places.
Yes.
It's there, but it's not complete.
I'm sorry?
It's not complete knowledge. It's not complete knowledge. It's there. It's not
When it started it, you can learn it more, but it's not complete anywhere.
No, it's not complete. Yeah.
complete.
You can start it.
Yeah, yeah. No, so that's okay. That's okay at the beginning. I understand, I'm not this body, And especially, like I say, in India, most people are aware of they have some type of religious faith, from the rickshawala to the prime minister, is pervaded by faithful people. There is all different kinds of people because in Kali Yuga, there's people who are not religious or they don't want to take advantage of the religious culture. But generally speaking, it's difficult to especially in the Western world. It's interesting. I do a mobile business. I tune pianos. So one of my clients on the piano was a four-headed figure. So I said, just to see where they were at, because maybe they don't know. So I said, what's this? He says, oh, this is Lord Shiva. I said, well, I'm a Hare Krishna, and I think it's Lord Brahma. Oh, yes, of course, it's Lord Brahma. He says, my husband is a Sanskrit scholar. And I'm like, No way. So he grew up in New York. He was Jewish, but spontaneously he was attracted to studying Sanskrit. Go figure. So, but even so, you know, it's one thing to have knowledge, but in order to realize, just like you can go to the library and read all kinds of books, but you won't get a degree. You have to go to a university and go through the process of matriculation, going through all the different courses, and at the end, you graduate. So if you're serious about spiritual life, if you really want to step up to the next level, then you have to start looking for a spiritual master. Okay? And even if you read in Prabhupada's books, actually you already have a spiritual master. But still, if you're serious, you want to get initiated and so on and so on. And so we have many people in our congregation who are serious about Krishna consciousness and are taking the disciples course and want to get serious about, you know, attaining the ultimate goal of life. Thank you very much for coming. Hare Krishna. So, I guess that's about it. Thank you very much. Prabhupada.